Hello and welcome to this Town Meeting TV's coverage of Town Meeting Day 2025. My name is Debbie Ingram, and this program is part of a series of candidate forums hosted by Town Meeting TV in advance of the Town Meeting Day election on Tuesday, April 8th of this year. These forums are made possible by Town Meeting TV's generous underwriting partners. You can find all our forums at cctv.org/TMD2025 or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel, where auto-generated captions are available. If you're tuning in on YouTube, also be sure to click the subscribe button to stay tuned into local democracy this entire election season. On tonight's program, we will hear from three candidates running for the Essex Westford School Board, the Essex Junction position. Those candidates are Marlon Veresami, the incumbent, Ernest Heimsath, and Gregory Fleischman. We have prepared a list of questions for each of you gentlemen. Welcome, glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And you will have 90 seconds to answer each question. Rebuttals will only be allowed if a candidate is named directly, in which case the candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. And folks, if you're tuning in live, we also welcome your questions at 802-862-3966. If you call in, we will do our best to prioritize your question, though we will screen calls to ensure that questions are not repeated. We ask that you share your name and the town you live in, and that your question be directed to all candidates, not just one in particular. You can also submit questions for future forums online at cctv.org/TMD2025. So let's get started with our 1-minute opening statements. We'll start with Marlon, and basically what we mean by an opening statement is to please tell us why you're running, how you're qualified to serve on the Essex Westford School Board, and what will be different for the school district if you are elected.
Thank you so much, Debbie. So my name is Marlon Veresami. I live in the Junction. I've been a resident there for 10 years and been on the school board for the last 3 years. I serve in the role of the clerk right now. When I first ran for the school board 3 years ago, we were kind of coming out of large movement with Black Lives Matter and large pushes of equity and diversity. And our district actually, it instituted its first equity policy. So I began becoming more involved in meetings, starting to watch what's going on, becoming more engaged. And as I watched the meetings go on and watched the community response, I felt like we need to have more diverse voices on the board. So with that, I ended up running 3 years ago and helped enact the equity policy and helped kind of strengthen over the years. For right now, I'm running again because we are seeing a very, very tumultuous time in education in the state of Vermont. We've had a lot of challenges the last few years, and this board has really, I think, risen to the challenge, and we have a lot more work to do. And I want to be able to be a part of this board and help our community overcome these challenges and face them head on.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to Ernest, your opening statement.
Thank you. Hi. So first, I'm a Summit Street school parent, so it's probably unsurprising that I'm disappointed at the outcome of very difficult decisions that were made regarding next year's budget. But what inspired me to pursue the EWSD school board seat is that I asked myself, amongst all this change and uncertainty, not just in the budget and our community, but the U.S. and the world, what can I do to help? So I'm a scientist in the biological sciences. I received my Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Texas in San Antonio, and I hold a PhD in biochemistry from Dartmouth College. Through my research, I've contributed to our understanding of the biological processes related to diabetes, cancer, and hearing. I'm the first person in my family to receive a college degree. I'm a Mexican American. Less than 1% of all advanced degree holders in the U.S. are Latinx. I'm one of them. I'm the beneficiary of federal initiatives that open doors for underrepresented groups, including minorities, women, and members of the LGBTQ community to enter into STEM fields. And without these initiatives, people much smarter and talented than me would never have the opportunity to succeed. So as board member, I plan to leverage my diverse background and experience to connect with, advocate for, and ensure that our kids and families have the opportunity to attain a strong education here in Vermont.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Greg.
Thank you. My name is Greg Fleischman. I am an Essex Junction resident. I've been living there since 2016. I've got 2 kids, a first grader and a 5th grader. My sort of push to be part of this school board is that I feel like I need to get invested in the school board for the district where my kids are getting their education. Qualifications, I have quite a bit of leadership experience, both from my time in the military and also my time working for the federal government. And I've got quite a bit of knowledge of education. I've never run on a school or been on a school board, but education has always been very high priority for my family.
Great, thank you very much. So, gentlemen, we'll start with our first substantive question, which is actually on the school budget. The Essex Westford School District has proposed an FY26 level funded budget of $94.7 million, which resulted in some cuts to services while limiting the impact on taxpayers. Some things had to be cut to offset increases in other ways so that it would be level funded. So do you support this school budget? And Ernest, we'll start with you.
Well, I'll just start by kind of saying my piece as a Summit Street family. But first, I want to acknowledge that we are all under a great amount of stress and anxiety about the scale and impact of uncertainty that we're all experiencing right now. Some of them are facing the real possibility of us losing all the jobs in our household amidst rising costs across the board. And on top of all these grown-up things, having to keep it together in front of our kids, for our kids. So, we're exhausted, and we're really nervous about what lies ahead. So when the budget rollout happened, and the full scale of implications in that budget, we're supposed to digest in real time, it seems like poor form to just gloss over major decisions like repurposing Summit Street School and moving Westford 6-8 to Essex Middle. I'm sure the school board was flooded with emails and concerns throughout that next week. And it wasn't until that following week that someone in a public comment had to point out that minor detail was buried and requiring us to kind of read between the lines. So I'm going to vote for the budget because we all saw last year what the consequences from a failed budget looks like. Having another round of RIFs would further erode the quality of education in our district. I am hearing that there's a significant amount of people that will vote against the budget in protest because of how the budget handled this. These were very difficult decisions to make, but I feel it could have been communicated differently, and I think it would behoove the board to kind of have a moment of introspection on transparency, communication, and thoughtfulness moving forward.
Okay, thank you. So, Greg, we'll turn to you.
I also have a Summit Street student. I'm feeling a lot of the same things that Ernest is feeling. I definitely do support the budget. In a perfect world, I wish that we could just not have level budget and save all of the programs that everybody wants. Obviously, that is not something that can happen with the financial times that we're in right now. The budget that we have is really doing the best that the board and the administration can do to keep our children with the best possible education that they can have. And that's probably the most important thing.
Okay, thank you. Marlon, your response.
First off, I absolutely 100% support this budget. There was a lot of hard work that went into this budget. When last year's budget failed, along with about a third of the budgets across the state, every district had to look at hard facts that, again, the costs were starting to get out of control. The funding system we have in the state was a large piece of that and made it unsustainable and basically pitted communities against schools, and that was not working. Out of that failed budget, the board, first thing we did is we did an exit poll after our first failure to start getting information from the community. We started doing engagements, both virtually and in person. And then as we got into the new school year, we started saying, okay, well, what can we do to start reaching out to the community, to start getting in data and start hearing feedback from the community? So we did a budget survey. We had about 1,000 folks from their community that had reached out and gave information to that survey. We did a superintendent survey as well for our new superintendent. That also got about 1,000 folks that came through as well too. And a lot of the information there was also centered around the budget and the challenges our community was facing with last year's budget and this upcoming budget. We did a budget question on our budget page for the school district, which had about basically had about 500 to 600 folks that responded there. We did in-person engagements, virtual engagements, all these things to try to get community input. This budget is hard, and we know that. We've had to cut $10 million over the last 2 years. I know that the changes for Westford and Summit have definitely been hard for those communities. We've also had to cut 100 positions over the last 2 years. That's also very, very hard for our staff because our staff lives in our communities. So this has been very, very hard, but I feel this budget is going to put the best foot forward. I have the utmost faith in our district staff to make this budget work for our students.
Great, thank you. Thanks for all of those responses. Now let's move on to another question about the superintendent. The EWSD has named Dr. Mark Holodick the new superintendent. How will you use your role to support this superintendent to meet the needs of EWSD students, family, and the community? And this time we'll start with Greg.
I was super excited to see that the district had selected such a fine candidate for the new superintendent. I did read through all of their biographies. Every one of them was a good candidate, but I feel that the district has picked the very best one. Using my position on the board, obviously, I would support what the recommendations from the new superintendent are. He has quite a bit of knowledge and would really just lean on that knowledge to help guide the board. That's, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Marlon, we'll move to you.
Absolutely. So first off, I am unbelievably excited that Dr. Holodick has chosen us to be our next superintendent. Mark comes with an amazing background. He has experience as a teacher, as a principal, as a superintendent for over a decade. He taught at the University of Delaware to teach future leaders for principals across the state of Delaware. And then in his last and most latest role, he spent 3 years as a Secretary of Education for the state of Delaware. He brings an unprecedented amount of experience to our state, and we are unbelievably lucky to have him. So what does that mean as far as support goes from our board to him? Again, he brings so much knowledge, but we need to help acclimate him here to Vermont. So first thing is over the summer is his move from Delaware to Vermont. We need to support him in that move, make that move as smooth as possible so he can hit the ground running in July. The next piece we need to do is we need to, as a board, work with him to get out and meet community leaders and different community organizations, so therefore he can begin to build his networks in our community. Throughout the fall, we want to work with him to get him to open houses so that he can meet parents, caregivers, and meet the community at large as well, so therefore he can build those networks and really, really get the community to understand who he is and understand the work that he wants to do to help our district. The other piece we want to work with him too is that we are seeing a little bit of a brain drain at the top of our district right now because now as our superintendent retiring, our COO just stepped down. He took a new job last month, and our director of curriculum is also leaving to be a superintendent in Eastern Vermont. So we need to support Mark and be able to help him build his team so that he has what he needs to lead our district into the future. We're asking a lot of him, but we know that he is definitely up for the challenge.
Okay, thank you. And Ernest.
Hi. So Dr. Holodick joins us, as like Marlon said, from a very well-decorated career in Delaware at multiple scales of education, all the way up through state administration. I really admire and respect his core values of being a self-reflective leader that acts with integrity. He communicates in a clear and honest manner, while also being a good listener. So he understands that student development should be measured not just with academic achievements, but social and emotional accomplishments as well. His appointment as a superintendent is rather timely in the context of not only what is happening in our district, but also statewide and at the federal level. He has gone through a very difficult economic period that involved making very difficult decisions, so he can help us see through these as well. So he has two challenges in my mind. Dealing with this budget, moving forward with this budget, whether it passes or fails, and also navigating Governor Scott's education transformation plan, whatever shape that ultimately takes. So I think it's important for us to help him through that process as well, and also learn from him. But also a third is he's got to like acclimate culturally to his new community. I mean, he's lived in Delaware, and so this is kind of a new environment for him. So can we welcome him and make him feel like we support him? I think that's important for us to do as well.
Okay, thank you all. Let's move on to a new topic. This is about strategic priorities. How do you understand the strategic priorities of the EWSD, and what are you most aligned with and excited to work on of these priorities? So this time we'll start with Marlon.
Sure thing. When I think strategic priorities for our district, I think of our continuing improvement plan. I think of our response to intervention. I think of our professional learning communities. I think about our social and emotional learning. But the one I want to focus on is our Portrait of a Graduate. That was created with community involvement back in the 22-23 school year. It was basically designed to look at, on top of math, literacy, science, and arts, what are the skills that we want our students to have when they reach graduation. It also aligns with the board's global blended policy, which is again designed to ensure the highest quality education for our students and make them well-rounded individuals when they graduate EWSD. In the Portrait of a Graduate, it's got a lot of different portions in there. Amongst them is adaptability, again, being nimble and flexible in an ever-changing world. Communication skills, again, not just verbal and written skills, but also active listening skills. Critical thinking, which kind of goes along with that there too. Again, we see a lot of misinformation, disinformation in our world today, and we want our students to be able to understand that, see that, identify it, and be able to assess that out and look for true data and facts out there. Going back to the kind of the SEL piece there, we have empathy and we have personal wellness. And with the personal wellness, it's not just physical wellness, it is mental and emotional well-being. And we think that's very, very important for all of our students. And then lastly, the community we want to see is financial literacy, being able to understand how to balance checkbook, be able to apply for loans for colleges or for a mortgage, be able to invest their money, and be able to, again, do a household budget. That was really important for all of our community members. That was another piece. And we want to make sure that our students have all these skills interwoven with our core skills for our district.
Great, thank you. Ernest, same question to you.
Thank you. With the strategic priorities, I see them through the lens of the delivery model that is part of this budget. And in that model, there's four aspects. There's the systemic alignment, which encompasses all the transitions that are happening across the school. There's the facilities and system support, which is updating our school, our buildings, which are in dire need of that. The instructional framework, which involves student support and health services, as well as all the academic academic achievements that come along with that, but also mental health and behavioral needs. So I think I've more aligned with the instructional framework. Marlon touched on a few things that really resonate with me and kind of my background of being trained as a scientist. As part of that is to being able to think critically and really ask high-level questions. And what I want to do is explore avenues where we can bring more of those opportunities to our students, bring more opportunities to allow them to move on and be able to evaluate information and misinformation that's going to be part of our world. Can we evaluate this information that's coming in from multiple sources and make sense of it? How do we verify and make decisions based on multiple sources of information? These are kind of things that I want our students to be strong at and to move forward beyond our school system with the confidence that they can do.
Thank you very much. And so we'll finish with Greg.
I think that some of the biggest things for me, I went to school long enough ago that we didn't have a lot of the stuff, the social, emotional learning, the financial planning, all of that stuff, and also teaching our kids to really focus on picking the truth out of what they're hearing. All of those programs are such a huge part of the school district here. And I really think that those are probably some of the most important parts for this school district. Obviously, there's infrastructure that needs to be dealt with, but the actual programs that we have to help our kids become better adults, better human beings, those are the priorities I feel are the most important.
Okay. So now let's move on to a very interesting topic, the political climate. Given the current Trump administration's efforts to cut off funding for DEI efforts, end immigration, and remove safeguards for transgender people, and reduce funding for the Department of Education, what does the school district need to do to protect the community and individual civil rights? And Ernest, we'll begin with you.
Right. So, as I said in my opening, I am one of these underrepresented persons that is going to be targeted by the Trump administration. I take this very seriously. I'm very concerned for our community and those that may be marginalized, and they are in real danger. Some action items that I can think of to help them kind of navigate through this time is to build and foster relationships with our local law enforcement, and that's a very difficult thing to do for someone who sees law enforcement as unsure of whether they can trust or not. Essex PD has a community advisory board that advocates exactly for this, for systemically marginalized, disenfranchised, and oppressed members of the community. Can we build bridges there, and can we build trust with underrepresented community there? Can we introduce safety protocols when we need to interact with ICE agents, should they show up on our front doors, like they potentially have been? Can we identify legal resources and counsel that we can help support these members of our community? LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, has great resources to help us develop those for our community. Thanks.
So I'm sorry, time's up. Yeah, appreciate what you're saying. And so now we'll move to Greg.
This is a hard one. Times are very, very crazy right now. I think the school board needs to support the school district in providing safety, providing inclusivity for all of the kids that go to school here. With what's going on with federal education, the Department of Education, I think it's more important than ever that the school board and the administration work with the state Department of Education, because that's going to be our lifeline to whatever comes from the federal system. Yeah, it's just at this point really just providing for the safety of the students, making the students who could feel marginalized feel included and safe in our schools.
Thank you. And now Marlon.
Thank you. There is a lot of fear and uncertainty out there right now. Obviously, we just saw yesterday's executive order around the Department of Education. With that right now, we're really in uncharted times right now. And so we have to really come together as a district, come together as a state to protect our students, protect our new Americans, protect marginalized communities. From the board level, how that looks for us is first and foremost, we go back to our policies and procedures. Number one, our equity policy. Making sure that we are meeting our needs with every student in our district. That is first and foremost, and making sure that the district has what they need to be able to support all our students and those families across our district. Another piece of that too goes to our policy FP2, which covers specifically engagements with law enforcement and with ICE. Making sure that our staff is properly trained on that there. They know what the rights are for every student and for every family in our district, so we can make sure every student feels safe from the moment they leave their house so they're in our care and then they get back home. And we have to make sure that we continually drill that time and time again with our staff to make sure that it is we're following the law, that and make sure first and foremost we're protecting our students. That is, I think, paramount. One little quick thing I want to toss in there, though, right now, while things are really tumultuous on the federal level, the state level, I was put one like that happened last week, which was the state Senate put out a joint resolution talking about protecting our trans and non-binary community members, supporting them and making sure that they feel safe. It was signed by every state senator in the state, Republicans, Democrats, progressives. That is the only thing I've ever seen them ever agree upon. And so it makes me feel great that our state in that lane comes together and we protect our own. So thank you.
Thank you. And now our next topic. What is the biggest challenge facing Essex Westford schools, and how would you use your seat on the school board to address this issue? So Greg, we'll start with you.
I would say that probably one of the biggest things that I see is the rising healthcare costs, and what that is doing to our budget process for education. It's grown so exponentially that it is a huge piece of all of the budget. On the board, obviously, that is something that is done at state level, but using a position on the board would allow me to then also push for reforms at the state level for healthcare and get those costs back to a better level, hopefully.
Okay. Marlon.
Yeah, the biggest challenge, I believe, is currently the state funding model right now. It has been damaging to every district across our state in the last few years. Current model right now is unsustainable. We have about a quarter of the education fund comes from homestead taxes. We are a state that is the third oldest state in the U.S. We have a lot of folks that are retirees on fixed incomes, and they are having to pay on property taxes while their income has not changed probably over the last 5 to 10 years. And those property taxes have been skyrocketing, and that is tied directly to what they're paying for their property taxes. Case in point, we're doing with a level budget for our budget right now, but then folks in the town are paying a 9% increase in taxes, and folks in the city are paying a 7% increase. That is basically tied to their property taxes. We have to work with our legislators, work with the governor around what is educational funding going to look like over the next 5 to 10 years and decade going forward. The current plan the governor has right now is not addressing any of those things. As Greg brought up, healthcare. Governor took over healthcare, pushed forward back in 2017, take away from local school boards. And at that point, we were having for a family plan for teachers was about $17,000. Since the governor's taken over, this current year right now, we're pushing about $41,000 for a family plan for teachers. That again is unsustainable. That is about 15% of our budget overall. And that is again a large piece of what we had to make a lot of huge, hard changes in our and decisions in our budget is because we have to keep dealing with these out of control mandates and healthcare that we can't do anything about. So for that goes, we have to really work with the state, and we have the ability to advocate as school board members to help make change for public education for our state. Thank you.
Okay, and Ernest.
Well, there's certainly a number of issues that I think that we face. Housing crisis is one. I would like to interface with City Council to understand how we can alleviate the school. We see a decreasing enrollment rate with our students, but where are new families supposed to go? There's no houses. It's really difficult right now to get a house. How can we address that? But really, what I want to do is take with the rest of my time is to kind of circle back to the previous topic, which I think is very, very connected and related, at least from a money point of view. So I fear that we're morally and ethically obligated to protect our vulnerable members of our community. That's going back to DEI initiatives and what the Trump administration is going to do. They are discontinuing DEI initiatives and basically erasing the contributions of minorities from government websites. They are using federal funds as leverage to coerce universities and potentially state and local communities to abide by their beliefs and their agenda. What happens if they use those same leverages on us? That is a major financial crisis. If they were to pull Title I funding, IDEA funding, Medicaid, all these things that it would absolutely upend our entire funding model here. What do we do? How do we anticipate, and what is our contingency plan if that were to happen? Do we fail those members of our community and concede to those demands, or do we stand up for our community and figure it out? That is a major challenge that I think we're going to need to address and develop a plan for.
Thank you all very much. So let's switch gears now and talk about public safety. How can the school district ensure the safety of its students and teachers in our schools and the community? So Marlon, we'll start with you.
Sure thing. So my daughter is a graduate of EWSD. She graduated in 2021. Back when she was an 8th grader at ADL, which is the middle school in the city, there was a lockdown for an active shooter threat. And we also at the time had a foreign exchange student with us who was a senior at the time from France. That event was the typical as you see across the country, where we basically lock students in, no communication, no idea what's going on. And while that threat proved to be a non-threat and everything was fine out of that there, it definitely left lasting scars with my daughter, with our adopted daughter, and then with all of their friends around them still to this day. So when we talk about how we're going to protect our students in our schools, I want to kind of point out to our facilities and safety manager, Gary Scott, who I think is an amazing resource we have in our district. He's a former state trooper, and he's shifted our model in the district to a run, hide, fight model, which intentionally, really, the designer is to help empower older students and staff to be able to make decisions on the fly. So again, if the threat is outside, you lock down the building, stay inside. If the threat is maybe inside the building, understanding what are your escape routes to get outside, to get away from the threat and to be able to keep students safe. And then eventually getting down to the worst and last resort is if you need to resist whatever the active threat is. Again, none of us want to live in a world where we have to worry about active shooters for our students. But again, I appreciate the change in how we handle these things to give students a chance to feel like they have a little bit of power in a very powerless situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ernest.
Thank you. Public safety can mean different things at different scales, and Marlon touched upon some of these things like an active shooter threat inside or outside of a school. So along those kind of lines, building meaningful relationships with public law enforcement, as I mentioned before, we need to build that kind of trust in our community and in our students and our staff. This made me think of back to the outreach activities that Essex PD has, the Community Advisory Board. They meet every third Tuesday at the Town Hall Office Conference Room. But Gary Scott, as Marla mentioned, Ashley Arkovich, who is the PTO president at Hiawatha, she organized the first Hiawatha Speaker Series, which features Gary Scott, and he's going to come and speak on some of the emergency preparedness protocols that exist in the school, and he will touch on how our district maintains secure buildings and prepares our staffs and students to respond in a variety of emergency situations. I'm really excited about that. I'm looking forward to attending that. It's going to happen this Tuesday. I would like to see more of these kind of events where we can engage the community and have either Gary or other avenues of our either law enforcement or our administration come in and just speak to some of these aspects of public safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we'll finish with you, Greg.
Thank you. Safety of our students is one of the biggest priorities that we have. If they can't be safe and can't feel safe at school, it's hard for them to learn. Vermont is a pretty safe place. And what I would hate to see is for that safety that we feel in this community to cause us not to be prepared for something bad to happen. The district is obviously doing a very wonderful job. They've got a great resource in Gary. And just having that resource in place who is building community partners with law enforcement agencies around the area to run drills, to figure out a plan before we need it has been wonderful. As a board member, I would definitely encourage that continuing community partnership.
Okay, thank you all. So now we'll switch to the topic of mental health. How can Essex Westford schools best support student mental health? And we'll begin with Ernest.
Thank you. This aspect is I'm less familiar with on all of the resources that exist for our schools. But I do know that Aaron McGuire and Dylan McNamara are the co-directors of Student Support Services, and they help our students get through tough times and support them. They both service different schools, but I would look towards them and lean on their expertise and understand and identify where can we make improvements and help our students moving forward. Again, these are really difficult times, and I want to make sure that if those support mechanisms are not there, or if there are weaknesses in our support system, that we can address them effectively. I do know that our kids are very perceptive to the emotional states of the grown-ups around them. So when us and as adults are very stressed and are trying to keep it together, they feed off of that. And that anxiety then translates to a compromise in academic performance. So I believe it's important that we address not only the challenges that our students face, but also try to help our families when we can to get through some of the challenges that they're facing as well. Thanks.
And now we'll hear from Greg.
Mental health is very important to me. When my last duty station in the military was down at Fort Hood, Texas, and we had a 2-year-old, and we were looking at schools down there, and one of the biggest things that we saw missing was the sort of mental health aspect of supporting the kids at the school. When we looked at moving up here and we looked at the school districts here, all of them seem to have such robust mental health programs in place to help the students. It made me very excited to move here. And since I've actually discovered that it's even better than I thought it was. Just seeing the support that our students are getting to have a good mental well-being. If you don't have that mental well-being, you can't learn. It's harder to learn. So definitely the mental health is important in this district. I think we're doing a very good job.
Okay. And Marlon, finish us off.
Sure
please.
thing, I can do that. Well, I'll say this first off. We have a lack of mental health resources across the state of Vermont, especially in Chittenden County, especially for our younger students and folks across the state, sorry. We're also seeing right now at the state level too that there's a talk about a slash of $500,000 for mental health services across the state, which would be a detrimental loss for everybody in our state. The positive, though, I'll say, is that the district has really taken that and tackled it head on. 2 years ago, we started the ARC program, which is academics, relationships, and community for our students of most need. We house about, I believe, 15 students there right now, and it's for our students of the highest needs. Usually, in the past, the therapeutic service would be done outside the district, and they could go anywhere as far as down as to Brattleboro, over to New York State, into the eastern part of Vermont to get those services because they're so limited and so hard to find, and they're very expensive, looking about $100,000 a lot of times for those students to go get placed in those services. We're able to do that in-house right now at a huge cost savings, and they're able to be home around their friends and their family. We have continued to make an emphasis that in this budget right now. We talk about some things we've lost. One of the things we've gained in this budget is we've really put a forward-facing approach that there. We're looking to expand our services for 9 through 12 students. We're looking to do therapeutics right now for K through 2 students, those that don't meet the high need but definitely could use some extra supports. We have hired clinicians. We've added tons of positions. Right now in our budget, we have 803 positions currently. Of that, 150 are around mental health, whether they be behavioral analysts, psychologists, clinicians. We are really putting a forward-facing push towards mental health for our students because that is a huge priority for our district. Thank you.
Thank you. So our last topic for this evening will be measuring success. Last year's standardized test results suggest that the proportion of Vermont students proficient in math and English decreased during the pandemic and has not made significant improvements since. How do you measure the success of the school district? Greg, please start us off.
Standardized testing is good, but there are students who have trouble with standardized testing. So that's a hard one to get a solid picture of what all of the kids are really capable of. I think that we need to find some way to integrate those results into the everyday performance that the teachers are seeing these children exhibiting. And then that will give us a more robust picture of how the kids are actually doing.
Okay, thank you. Marlon, how would you answer that question?
So I do agree that the state definitely is seeing struggles out of COVID. I do agree with Greg that yes, standardized testing is not the best way to do it, but again, we have to look at that to compare ourselves to other districts across the state. EWSD is actually the exception, not the norm right now. We are well above average across the state. You look at our literacy data for our 3 through 9 students from 2023. AOE, unfortunately, is usually about a year behind giving us the statewide data. So we haven't seen 2024 yet, but look at the 2023 data. We're running about, for literacy, we're running about 11 to 15% for grades 3 through 9 in comparison to the state. And then for math, we're running about 8 to 23% above for grades 3 through 9. And a lot of that is work has been done by our staff. Start off with audits for both math and for literacy to really dig down and say, what are our systems right now and what can we do better? What are best practices we can share across the entire district? We've got coaches and interventionists for both math and literacy across the district. We have family math nights for our elementary schools. The other part we do too is we not just look at the data as a whole, we try to use our equity policy to be able to disaggregate the data and look at our students most in need, the students with the highest barriers. And a lot of times what we've seen on both sides, actually they kind of line up, is our students are English as second language learners, our students that are on IEPs, students are Black students right now, and then also students that historically would qualify for free reduced lunch. And so that allows our district to be able to look at that and say, those are students we really need to target and make sure that we take down those barriers that they have right now to help them achieve at the same level as their classmates are doing right now.
Okay, thank you. And Ernest.
Thank you. Well, again, I'm not the K through 12 educator. I would certainly like to consult and get a sense of what this of what the data says. But my take is that it might be too soon post-pandemic to see the kind of improvements that we're expecting. And this is my rationale for thinking that. The pandemic hit Vermont in 2020, and we shut down and were quarantining by the middle of March. That means that children born in the fall and the winter of 2019 or earlier were either in school or in daycare. Then everything stopped. Schools transitioned to virtual, daycares closed, some for good. Those youngest babies are now 5 years old. That's kindergarten. So we literally have this entire K through 12 cohort of students who live some segment of their early childhood and young adult development within this bizarre realm of uncertainty, disease, and death, masking social distancing. And then you had the housing market crisis, which put entire families under an immense amount of pressure and stress. It was a major global event. So I don't know if that aspect can fully explain why there's a delay in core academic achievement, but perhaps at least it suggests a connection between mental health, the ability to adversely respond to relatively extreme events and academic performance. So here I do feel aligned with our superintendent, who has a holistic philosophy that student achievement should be measured not only academically, but socially and emotionally. So can they build relationships with people? Can our students be kind and empathetic members of our society? Can these be measures of success just the same? Thanks.
Thank you. So I'll give each one of you 30 seconds to make closing comments. So we will start with, let's see, where am I? With Marlon, I believe.
Sure thing. Again, I'm Marlon Versami. I'm currently on the school board. I'm humbly asking for your vote for re-election on April 8th. I am a father, a husband. I am a scientist with the National Weather Service and a veteran as well too. I have enjoyed my time on the board. It has been challenging and humbling. We have a lot more challenges to come, and I hope to be on the board for the next 3 years to meet those challenges. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ernest.
Thanks. So I want our kids to have the same opportunities to succeed that I did. I want them to be seen and truly believe that it's possible. Si se puede, said Dolores Huerta. Yes, it can be done. I want them to walk away from our schools feeling prepared and confident in their abilities to persevere. I can't be an expert at everything, and I certainly plan to lean on, collaborate with, and learn from other members of the board who have more experience and training in K-12 education. But my value really lies in being a voice and an advocate for our students, their families, as well as the teachers that are guiding them through this stage of their academic, social, and emotional development. Thank you.
Okay, and you can finish us off, Greg.
Thank you. My name is Greg Fleischman again. I am looking for your votes to the school board. I would love to represent your children within the district. I would strive to definitely get unity among all of our communities and to have better communication, more community events from the board that will bring the information to the community. Thank you.
Well, thank you all, gentlemen. It was very great to hear from you and to hear your thoughts on these important issues. Thank you also at home for tuning in to Town Meeting TV's ongoing coverage of local candidates, budgets, and ballot items. You can find this and many more forums at cctv.org/TMD2025 or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel. Don't forget to cast your ballot on Town Meeting Day on or before April 8th. Then tune in to Town Meeting TV's results recap show that evening. Contact your local clerk to find out how to obtain a ballot and to register to vote. In Vermont, you can register on the same day of Election Day. So thank you all very much for watching and sharing Town Meeting TV.